Hey everyone, today I want to talk about an important tool that I use a lot trolling on Lake Michigan for trout and salmon, and it can be used for any species of fish really as long as you're trolling, and that's a planer board. And this is an offshore tackle mini planer board. A lot of people ask me why use a planer board for my kayak because you're already so stealthy. And the reason is, yeah, we are very stealthy in kayaks, but in a big body of water like this, like Lake Michigan, sometimes you just need to cover as much as possible. And what the planer boards do is help me spread my lines out even further than I do with just my rods. So basically, I can cover a much bigger area of water than I normally would without a planer board. And it also allows me to run a third rod down the middle a little easier without getting tangled. So let me show you how I rigged this. My rod here, I'm using a line counter reel. I really like using line counter reels. It's just important to be able to keep track of how much line you're letting out. And for my main line here, I'm just using 20-pound Power Pro. It's not really that important for planer board fishing as long as it's at least 10 or so, depending on what kind of fish you're fishing for. And then I'm fishing for cohos today, so I'm using a dodger and fly. I have a bead on my main line, and it's going to a weight to get my bait down a little bit. But say you're using crankbaits for walleyes or for trout, I usually just stop the board from sliding down with a bead and a swivel, and then a leader going to my bait. So as far as the planer board goes, there's a couple important parts to this, and that is, first is the release right here. And what I'll do is take the line from the rod, wrap it around my finger, and put that twisted portion into the release. After that, I'll put the line through this snap swivel, and then it'll go to the bait. The snap swivel is important because when you're fighting a fish in a kayak, you don't want to stop and take the board off yourself. There's enough stuff going on while you're fighting a fish. It's just a point in time where it's really easy to lose a fish. It's going to charge at you or try to take a line away. It's always where they're going to get off. So with this on here, when a fish hits, it's going to pull the line out of this release, and then the board will slide down your line to that swivel and bead with this snap swivel here. So let me show you how I get started. It's important to get a little momentum going. A tip if you're in a regular paddle kayak is to set your line going with the wind. You want to keep your momentum going as long as possible while you let that line out, so you don't want the wind in your face stopping you while you stop paddling. So I'm just going to let out 30 or so feet of line today. There we go. I'm going to grab the line right here. Put the line through that swivel and close it. Now, the line going to the rod tip, I'm going to twist this around my finger, and that twisted section I'm putting into the release. So you can see how the line goes through both the release and the snap swivel. Now, all I need to do is flip this out, and the board will keep going further and further away from the boat as I let more and more line out. An important thing to remember is when you are letting a lot of line out, with more and more line you let out, the wider the turns you're going to have to make. So if you find a school of fish and you want to turn right back on that school of fish, if you're not careful, you can run over your own line. So if you're in somewhat of a tight area or you know where the fish are, you might not want to let it really far out, like 100 or 200 feet out. Maybe just keep it 50 feet out, and then it'll allow you to spread out just enough to catch some fish and get a third line down the middle. I like to position my rod holders to go up a little bit in the kayak, and the reason for that is that they're already so low to the water, and if there's wave action, I don't want my line between the rod tip and the board to sag through the water and sink. especially if I'm using a little heavier line. That could cause false releases. So if you keep it up a little bit, they seem to go through the water pretty well in the kayak, and you won't get the false releases.